I've been to like 3 Vegas summits, and one of them was a guy named Dr. Harmon Brown who went over to Kenya. He was an exercise physiologist, and he wanted to kind of study in the Rift Valley, what did the Kenyans do? Why were they all of a sudden, you know, of course, culture and other things, but they were starting to win Olympic championships. I don't know if you guys know this, but they weren't winning them in the 60s and 70s. Okay, and a few guys like Kip Keino and others, but for the most part, the rest of the world was still winning medals and still winning Olympic championships. All of a sudden, they're getting better and better and better and better. And Dr. Harmon Brown went over there and told a bunch of his coaches who were invited to this thing that what they studied was they found 2 things. Number one, from an aerobic standpoint, that the average 22-year-old Kenyan, 21-year-old Kenyan had 20,000 more miles in his body already than the average American, Brit, Eastern European, Scandinavian. So his whole life he'd been running and running and running, had a really great aerobic, easy distance running base. Ran all the time, to school, back and forth, all this stuff. Okay? So that was one big factor. The other thing was, well, first of all, they peaked earlier because of that. So don't freak out because they're 20,000 miles ahead of you by the time you come to college and run for me. Okay? But the greater factor that we were missing was people in the U.S. were doing tempo runs. The Joe Vigil's group, the Mammoth Lakes Project, doing all that stuff. They were doing long tempo runs and doing it. Salazar's group. They were doing these long tempo runs. But they were doing them once a week. So if they were running, say the elite runners were running 100 miles a week, they might do 10 miles of tempo running that week. So 90% of their running was aerobic, interval, some other type. For the most part, aerobic and interval. Okay? The Kenyans were doing 25% of their total volume at lactic threshold pace. Okay, so they were doing essentially 3 tempo runs out of 7 days, or 2 extraordinarily long tempo runs out of 7 days. They were spending more time at LT pace. Not doing more intervals, not being tougher than us, not doing more speed work. It was all lactic threshold development, doing it more so. And that became, tempo running has become the world gold standard for endurance training for long distance racing. And at Florida State, they said, why are you guys all of a sudden the last handful of years so much better than you used to be even 10 years ago? We do a ton of lactic threshold work. We won't touch our first interval workout until October 1. We'll do 8 weeks where we go every Monday's a tempo, every Friday's a tempo. So 2 days a week, we're out there doing long, comfortable, allegedly, training. Okay? Long, hard, comfortable training. And one day we're doing a little more toward the upper zone, so more toward that Jack Daniels 20 seconds number that Jack wants us to be at. So we might be at a 5-mile tempo on that day. Our veterans were doing as long as 9 miles of lower zone tempo on the Friday. And we became complete beasts. Okay? People were running 28:30 for 10K without doing a single interval session. Okay? That's fast. 4:32, 68-second pace for 25 laps.
14, 15 twice.
Yeah, 68-second pace for 25. Alright? So there's a lot of value in that. If you can do some of it, any of it, your age, you're going to kick the other guy's butt because he's not doing any of it. Alright?